How's it going? I'm Ryan, and today I'm going to go over the three trades that I took on NQ. I had one small win I took with light size, I had one regular size win, and I had one small loss. So ended up about $96 up on the day. So pretty small green day. Um, but accounts essentially where we started this week. So after a pretty, what I would say, not the greatest week of trading, ending break even is it's all right. Could have been a loss, always could be worse. So even on a bad week, ending break even, that works for me. But I'll get into the trades. First, let's just take a look at NQ, talk about what I was watching. So coming into the day, we had, I suppose, my chart didn't update. But we were looking to sit kind of right around yesterday's high day. In the pre-market, we moved higher off of yesterday's high day, so we have yesterday's high here. And the pre-market moved, or after hours moved higher. Pre-market kind of dumped and then recovered, and then opened the day kind of right below yesterday's high day. So things were looking pretty bullish to the upside. But one thing that I was watching was, if I pull up the 4-hour chart, you see that we made that high and then after hours after yesterday, and then kind of made a flat top and then started to pull back. So if we look at the 1-hour chart, you can see that we moved up, kind of created a top, and then started to drop off into the pre-market. And then coming into the open, we were pushing up into this area. I didn't really have any levels up here since this is all, I don't have any levels previous to go off of. If I went way back, I could, but my volume chart unfortunately doesn't go back that far. It only goes back to the beginning of this year. So last year's price action is kind of lost to me when I'm looking at the point of control on these levels, how I'm finding some of these levels. But what I wanted to say though is that where we see we have obvious resistance in price action, if you look at like a 4-hour or on the 1-hour, but the 4 hours is a little bit more clear, we see right around like 135 or so, we have a lot of stacked points of control. So if I pull up the 4-hour chart, you see the price action, right? We come up, fail to close higher, kind of doji, test higher, reject. But if you look at where these candles all close or open, it's kind of right around that like 136, 135 area. And then if we look at where all that volume is, we're kind of looking at the, same thing, 135 or so area. And then we dipped, and then coming into the morning, we were coming up to retest this area. So my first trade, and I didn't take it on the very first test off the open because of that reason. It happened pretty much immediately as the day opened. We came up and retested that 135, kind of 136, 137 area that I expected to act as resistance, right? Because we see resistance at this area on price action, and we see it in the same thing with the volume. We see a lot of volume there confirming that there's sellers in that area. So as we came up and tested it, you see right off that 137, we dipped pretty hard, dropped, about 40 points. We came up and retested it again. We tested it, and if I pull up the 5-minute chart, you can see we came up and we tested this level that we rejected again. Same thing, that volume node is really high up in the candle, and the candle failed to close higher, telling me that sellers are still in that area. So I entered 2 contracts short right here. My stop was 15 points, so I entered around 132. My stop would have been 47, so up here. So I had quite a bit of room above the wicks of high a day. And then my first take profit was at 30 points. My second was at low of day down here. And my first target got hit, and my runner got stopped out just about break even after we bounced. And I want to talk about that because this was actually really a good opportunity to go long, and I was short coming into that move, and I probably should have been patient and just waited for this pullback to happen and go long. But at the time, we hadn't really broken or at least closed higher, and we were still wicking off this area, looking weak in this area, so that's why I took the short. But the reason why where my exit was actually an incredible entry. And if I zoom out on the daily or on the 5 minute across the price action of the day, you can see this kind of like 105 level, 104, 105 in here was extremely good support, right? We pulled back, we ripped, pulled back, set new highs, pulled back. I took this trade, we'll cover that. But each time we hit this, and then here we pulled back a little deeper, and then retested that 104, 105, and then, you know, off to the races. So that level was really nice for calls, and I'll kind of show why I thought that that was a really solid level. If we're looking at this hourly time frame, right, we had that resistance. That's where we caught the short off of. But we made a bottom, and if we look, there's obviously buyers down here, right? Not only are we bouncing, but this hourly candle on the price action has that long lower wick. We can see the majority of the volume came pretty much at the bottom of that candle, indicating that there were buyers down here pushing price up. The following candle bounces, it closes above its volume node. That's a good sign. The next candle pushes up, closes pretty much right at the volume node. But then the following from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m., you see we made higher, a move higher, and we have that volume node very low in the candle, indicating there's a lot of buyers here that pressed price up over that hour. It's also kind of overlapping with the previous hour. And so when you get that, you get a really strong signal in terms of potential support or resistance. So if we just look at where all that volume is on both those candles that brought price higher on both of them, we kind of have this like zone right in here. And if you look, you can see exactly how that level plays out. So that was a really good entry long. So I was short in this position. I kind of missed that move higher, and I wish that I would have been thinking of this a little different. From there, we made higher highs and we pulled back, and I took a losing trade right here as my second trade of the day. I entered with full size this time, so I took 6 contracts. And this was a bad trade because I didn't get any sort of confirmation. It was a level that I was watching because on the hourly, same thing, right? We make new high of day. We have a bullish candle. We look at the volume node. It's pretty low in the candle, indicating that, you know, it's a good level to watch as support. And you can see that's right where my entry was. Additionally, what we had was a little bit of a fair value gap right here on the 5 minute, right? We have off that low, we get a big move up and we create that fair value gap on the 5. So I guess once this one didn't hold, maybe falling back into this one should have told me to wait for some confirmation. But when we came into this fair value gap and then also hit that level on the 1 hour in terms of that high volume, I entered. But here's the difference: is I could have waited for a confirmation on the 1 minute. For example, when we bounced over here, you can see the reaction, super high volume, and then we hold that level. We test it and we hold it really well and form that hammer and then rip higher. Over here, same thing. We come down, we test it, look at the volume on this candle and this candle. Both the highest volume candles are the ones testing that level. And then we bounce from that area, right? Whereas on the 1 minute here, I was expecting kind of a similar reaction to this area in here. We came down, we closed pretty weak, and then we just sold right through that level. So I entered long here. I was targeting a 30-point move to the upside for my first trim, and then high a day for my runner. Obviously that didn't happen. My stop loss was 15 points, and we took a loss there. So could have waited for confirmation. So that I could have avoided that trade. That wasn't a good trade. I was trying to anticipate rather than react. So I want to wait and react to what is actually there as opposed to try to anticipate what will happen. So that's an entirely avoidable loss, and that's a bit of a bummer because with the first win and then the second trade that I took, it would have been, you know, a different story today. But having missed this long position here, and I was expecting a bounce because what I wanted to see was higher highs and higher lows, right? We have this low, we move higher, have a higher low, move higher, have a higher high, and then we pulled back, and I figured that this would be a great place for a higher low to move higher. but I didn't get the confirmation, and that's on me. But what we did do is we pulled back and got confirmation at this level again. And so I re-entered my long position down here, pretty much right where I got stopped out after seeing us sell off and hold this once again, really high volume. A doji off that level, testing it again, failing to close lower on pretty elevated volume, not super high. And then once we started to move off that level, I entered long. So I waited for confirmation here, and then I went long. My first target was about 40 points, so I could have been better and been a little bit more observant. I tried to get greedy, I think, because I had that loss that I was trying to make it back. But one thing to note is that we had this massive selling candle, right? We created a fair value gap again. So this, if I look, we have some, I guess it's easier to do this. We have that fair value gap right there. And you see how we respected that, but also what do we have? We have that volume node right at the top of it, right at that 45. And if I get rid of this box, it's kind of, oh boy. But if you look at that, where the volume node is on this bearish candle, right? It's kind of near the top. That indicates a lot of selling to push that price down. That's why we saw such aggressive move down. Where is it? It's right at 145. If I look at 145 on like the 1 minute, just look at the reaction to this level, right? We come up, we test it, we test it, we test it, and then we sell off. So my entry was 114. So 30 points would have been 144 or 143, excuse me, which would have filled. I got a little greedy and I tried to put it higher, and I put it at 150. I just chose 150 because it was a volume level on the 1 hour right here. Excuse me, no, it's not. I think right here. Yeah, right there, 150. And then I just got greedy. I wanted to move my initial take profit. Usually I keep it at 30. I tried to get a little bit more. I tried to get about 40 points off of it. But what I should have paid attention is in that massive drop down where we had that fair value gap, we had an obvious level of resistance around 145. And I should have just placed my take profit maybe a little below, 144 or something. And that would have worked out. But what happened is I saw us rejecting off that level. I kind of realized what was happening in the moment. And then I moved my stop up on my majority of my position. I moved my stop up below this wick. Once we kind of tested it, held, and then started to move back up, I raised my stop here, figuring that it either hits my take profit or I get stopped out here if it's going to pull back further, which it did. So I'm glad I locked in some profit there. But once again, this week I just made a lot of like execution mistakes, lack of patience on entries, and then in terms of like managing my position, not the greatest. So being more patient on my entries and managing positions better, I think would have a drastic result. But nonetheless, got a profit there. This pullback stopped my runner out for a small profit, and that's it. That's all I had on the day. I quit after that. You can see we continued to hold that 105, that area that I highlighted off of that stacked volume profile. Pretty crazy if you just look at the 1 minute reactions each time it touches it. So I feel like I'm getting there. I spent a lot of time yesterday kind of analyzing some things. This is the same reason why I liked shorts up there, that 4 hour resistance at that like 33.37. But also we had that stack on the 1 hour as well, which I want to highlight just so we can take a look at that. So you can see how price reacted to that initially before breaking above it. But yep, I feel like I'm getting there. It's just a matter of time. But I'm going to take some time this weekend to refine the strategy. I just try to create just like a very simple, maybe 3 or 4 step rule set. Yeah, took some losses a lot better this week. That was my goal from last week, was to handle losses better and to be more patient. I still have some work to do on the patience, but I handled my losses a lot better this week, including yesterday where I had back-to-back losses and a big losing day. and was able just to walk away and not overtrade, not go on tilt. And today, I had a stupid loss that had me negative overall on the day, and I didn't really let that affect me. Once I actually saw what I wanted to see, I re-entered the position and was able to get back green on the day. So, maybe my tone is different had this got stopped out as well, and I took 2 losses. But losses are part of trading. I have to accept them. I think I did a much better job of that this week, which I'm proud of. But my execution in terms of being patient still remains to be seen, I guess. So we'll continue to work on that and kind of refine things. And I think having a very clear rule set in terms of what I'm looking for should theoretically help me quite a bit with staying patient. But that's all I got. Thank you for watching. I appreciate it. I stream live Monday through Friday. Would love to have you here if you want to be here. And I appreciate you watching. Hope you have a great day. Peace.